Hello everyone, welcome to my Dragonbane solo campaign, chapter 3, session 2. We're going to pick up exactly where we left off. Izzek is perched on the edge of this hill overlooking the grave of a dead elven prince. Oh boy, whose name, who I can never seem to remember. What's important though, Nariman, the dead elven prince Nariman, dead 1,000 some years ago, killed in a great battle with an orc warlord, tasked this ghost risen from the prince, tasked him with killing his brethren who are somehow still alive, all these centuries later, maintaining their vigilance on a land for an empire that no longer exists. Izzek wields the cursed elven sunblade Aldrir, who has both a thirst for orcs and elves, a dichotomy, a conflict, a curse. Izzek too has been cursed. He feels the geese, I always think it's a weird word, geese, that has been laid upon him by this ancient elven prince. Even though he didn't understand the words of the curse or the nature of the curse, he felt the tightening on his heart when the elven prince pronounced it so. When the prince ghost disappeared, sunk back in the ground as if nothing has ever happened, this hill once again grows silent. After a short little while, the birds start hesitantly chirping again in the trees. You can hear the rustle of water, almost as if nothing ever happened. Izzek's not sure what to do. He, even though he's kind of standing there stunned, his mind racing, his heart racing, holding this cursed elven sword, he finally sheaths it, sticks it across his back. He immediately regrets leaving the road. The merchant, the grocer in Derby on the Downs told him, don't leave the road. It might look safe, but don't leave the road. I'm raising my threat counter to a 3, even though Izzek did nothing but succeed. The threat in these lands are real. Izzek doesn't have any information. He wants to shout out to the skies. These weren't my ancestors. I do not come from the north. These are not my people. I am not their descendants. I am a stranger to these lands. This war had nothing to do with me. None of these people have anything to do with me. Yet once again, Izzek finds himself in the affairs of the northern kingdoms that he's a stranger in. Well, Izzek isn't one for pouting too long. Nightkin aren't one for pouting. There are a species of kin who are cursed by the very sun itself. They are used to pain. They're used to suffering. He feels fortunate to be alive. He could sense that encounter with that ghost. That ghost had an aura of power and authority unlike anything that Izzek can think that he's ever encountered. Even the Goblin King, way down in the kingdom of 3 towns whom he serves, is a comical joke compared to the authority that this ancient elven prince wielded even in death. It is afraid to even consider defying this geese and what it may mean. But he has no information. How many elves live in this land? Where do they even live? He can't kill 1,000 elves, 2,000 elves. Is he single-handedly expected to wage a war against an immortal group of kingdom of elves? surely not. The entire concept is unfathomable to him. Surely even this prince, this ghost, would not have given him an impossible task. He is just one hobgoblin, regardless of the sword he wields. He stops pondering it. There's no further need to ponder. He can only travel down that road and hope that answers will appear to him. He gets back on the other side of the hill. Pork Chop has been sitting on the other side of the hill, apparently, once again, kind of oblivious to the whole conversation. He can see that Pork Chop's actually been fishing. There's a dried fish head, a bunch of dried fish bones, and Pork Chop's lying contentedly on the edge of the water like he just had himself a delicious snack, pulling fish out of the slow-moving stream like he's some kind of grizzly bear. Mounts back up on Pork Chop, heads back to the main road. He does take another moment to curse and kick himself because he was warned, don't leave the road. The grocer made such a point of it. But Izzek is a knight. He came across this. He had the same comments from Nick Figswin not to explore the whispering grass. That didn't stop him. It's in his nature to go off the path destined to him and find his own way. He gets back on the road and heads on down. Once again, he still ponders these things. How will he find where these elves are? How will he put a stop to them? Why are they still alive after this time? That might explain why the Northern Kingdom has never spread further south. Could it be possible that these elves that haunt this land have complete stop from the Northern Kingdom going even further south? They themselves? Is that why he's not run into a single nightkin since he's been on this journey? Willard Krakenbush seemed to indicate that along the coast it was fine. Goblins travel up and down the coastline, but out here in the wilderness, there's only the elf home wetlands and the witch and the bog to the east. Is this completely blocked off to his kin? More questions than answers still. As he wanders on down this road, he's going to come to waypoint 2. I have no idea what waypoint 2 is. Waypoint 2 is an unknown waypoint for me. So let's use our inspiration tables. Let's see. I wrote an area table here. Let's roll a d20 on this area table. Let's see what this area is that he's going to be going on to. 10. A collapsed tower. That sounds great. I do have an inhabitants table. I'm not sure. Should I roll inhabitants in this case? I don't expect to find Daykin per se, unless it's a specific kind of Daykin. All right, let's roll on this inhabitants table. I'll ponder what the results are and what we'll do with it, but I'll at least give it a ponder. 4. What do you know? Daykin. We know of only a certain kind of Daykin in this area. Okay. A collapsed tower, as Izzek gets down the road, on the hill to his left, it's very clearly a collapsed tower, is indeed in a ruin, perched on top of the hill. This was definitely a watchtower, there's no doubt about it. It's the highest point in the land. This tower is perched high up there. It is now nestled among trees. At one time, perhaps those trees, there were no trees on this hill, perhaps they were all chopped down. But over the centuries, perhaps, these trees have gone back, and the watchtower is on the highest hill, but it is surrounded by trees, and only the crumbled ruins of it perks itself above the trees surrounding it. Let's roll on a couple subtables here for further guidance here. What kind of weird things we can find in this tower. We already know, I think, a little bit. Okay, contents. Roll 1d4 on the contents table, a location table, I should say. 2 different sort of things are going to be located here. There is going to be a environmental something, and a oddity. All right, let's take a look. An environmental thing, a 9, flourishing fungus. Okay. And an oddity, 10, a humming obelisk. Okay. I can work with this. Let's do it. All right. So, once again, Izzek pauses on the road as the road continues past this crumbling watchtower. Izzek very strongly considers just moving on down the road. Let's just go. Mistake to leave the trail, but that's not where he's at now. He's too late. His mistake to leave the trail has now punished him to having to explore this entire wetlands to find out the truth behind it all. He's not going to get any information now about the Vacant Empire unless he explores. It's a wooded area. You know, he's not super comfortable still dragging Porkchop around, even though Porkchop was a good combat asset. And oddly enough, I have not run into a single mounted combat since that one combat I had in the third waypoint of the first chapter, because Izzek keeps dismounting, but it's still kind of the way to go. Izzek rides over to the base of this hill, dismounts. Porkchop once again looks at him curiously. Where are you going? We just got here. He calms Porkchop down, ruffles his ears, plays with him a little bit, makes sure that Porkchop remains smiling and happy, which doesn't seem to be a problem. Porkchop is much happier out here in these lands than he was outside the town of High Corner in the Whispering Grasslands. Feel free to go hunt, Porkchop. No, go hunt, but don't stray far. Porkchop seems to bound off, but he seems to get the message. Izzek climbs up this wooded hill. He takes it kind of slowly. I think he knows now that apparently this is enemy territory. This vacant land is not so vacant. This elf home wetlands with no elves apparently does have elves. I think I'm going to try to approach this stealthily. As much stealthily as a knight in chainmail armor can possibly move stealthily. That's a sleight of hand, right? I think it is a sleight of hand. No, sneaking. There it is, right there, sneaking. He's going to try to sneak up there to Bane, of course, because he is wearing armor. But you don't try what you don't do. 12 and 17, he wouldn't have made it either way. So he tries to move slowly up this hill, keeping an eye around him, trying to make sure he's not going to get ambushed. Moving as he thinks he's stealth. Quote, air quotes. Does that work? Air quotes. Anyway, he thinks he's being as stealthy as he possibly can. The trees really grow up to the base of the tower, so there is no difference, no clear spot of land. But it's not a thickly wooded area. It's thinly wooded. So he kind of walks around the tower, trying to see where the entryway is. How collapsed is it? He comes across the upper portion of the tower, where it's collapsed down and slid down the edge of the hill. Indeed, these stones are old. How can you really tell? They're worn with time. They are no longer square blocks. They are more like smooth-edged humps at this point in time, with only the slightest definition that they were once rectangular blocks. Overgrown, mossy, crumbled all the way down. He's going to have to climb over these or go back down the hill and climb around them. He takes it slow, but I think I will make an acrobatics check Once again, with armor, I think you get chainmail. You do not get a Bane in acrobatics. That only is in plate mail, so he's not at a Bane. I think I'll make an acrobatics check. He's going to try to climb over this rugged collapsed tower and go to the other side of the hill. That is a demon. Yeah. So he failed in that. I guess I get to give myself a check mark on acrobatics. As Izzek tries to climb over this mountain of collapsed tower, he slips and falls. We'll keep it simple. He hurts himself. He takes a point of damage. It's not going to be too terribly dramatic about it. But he takes a point of damage as he twists his ankle. He makes a loud cluttering of noise. If at this point he thought he was stealthed, I think he realizes he's blown that. All the birds chirping nearby have all gone quiet and flown out of the trees the minute he went tumbling off this ruined tower. Well, I guess at this point, there's no point in being stealthy. He kind of, instead of going down the hill, he goes up to the tower itself. It's still too high. It's only about halfway collapsed, but it must have been quite a tall tower in its day. It must have really towered over these lands. Because even collapsed as it is, it's easily a story or two above his head, halfway collapsed. He can't see anything in it from this height. There are no windows or open doors or anything like that. It's a tower. He hasn't come across the doorway into this tower, even climbing around it halfway. But even strangely, a little bit strange, this tower is covered in a odd fungus. Like it's growing through the cracks of the tower. It wasn't growing through the collapsed portion, but around the tower itself. There is a strange fungus. It is a milky white with purple dots. Mike and are pretty familiar with fungus. I think I'll have him make a bushcraft roll to see if he recognizes this fungus in any sort of way. He is familiar with this fungus. It is a form of nightcap. It is poisonous. Often used by goblins to create lethal poison. Or I should say a virulent poison in Dragonbane's game. So goblins are known poison makers, especially shamans or kings who want to get rid of their enemies. Hobgoblins not so much, but even hobgoblin shamans is. So it's a poisonous stool. Unusual. They're normally found underground or under extremely shady caves and rotten places. This is a tower on top of a hill. Well, not exactly in direct sunlight, as there's trees everywhere. It is in the shade, but it's not a spot Izzek would expect to see this sort of thing. As he pauses and examines this fungus, I'm going to have him make like a listen roll to see if he can hear anything, which is going to be an awareness. He does succeed at that awareness check. As he's examining this fungus and kind of pinching it and rubbing it on his hands to kind of see what it is, indeed confirming what it is, from inside the tower he hears a quiet hum. There's no other way to put it. A hum, like not a person humming, like a device humming. There's something inside this tower. He moves around the tower again, keeps on heading up to circle the tower, and sure enough, he comes to a point where at one point there were a large set of doors in front of this tower. He finds himself surprised to find that there are still doors in front of this tower, intact. Wooden doors, not stone doors, intact wooden doors. They are closed. Maybe I'm going to roll an oracle to see if they're closed. I think I'm changing my mind on that. Let's roll. Are these doors closed? I'm going to go to the yes, no. because maybe they are, maybe they're not. Maybe with a little bit of luck, these doors will be open, which would be kind of nice. I'm just going to use normal roll on the fortune chart. No, these doors are not closed. These doors are slightly ajar, but they are open wooden doors. Izzek stops, once again decides just to check the situation out for a minute, see if he can see any movement. Does he see any tracks going into this, from the hill? Does it look like there's a trail? Does this trail look used? I already said maybe hunting and fishing for tracking. I guess I've said that in the past. We'll keep up with that. He's got a 6 hunting and fishing. He's going to look down and determine if there's any tracks, like a path that leads through this door. 9. No, it's not a success. He can't really tell. And it still looks grassy and woodland to him. He can't see that this place looks like whether it's trafficked. He listens for a while. Still very distantly, he can hear that hum, but sees no motion, sees no signs of any living creatures. He decides to enter this tower as quietly as he can. I guess he'll try a new sneaking roll at this point, even though it's probably going to be pointless to whatever's going on inside, but he fails it anyway. So he goes inside. So we know this area is occupied by Dakin. We know how many Dakin. Let's look at our fortune chart again. I'm not going to say this is a numerous sort of situation. I think on our number scale here, I'm going to say a 1 is none, a 2 is 1, 2, 3, 4 is few, 5, 6 is several. How much is several? How much do you guys count few? A few is 2? 2 to 3? Several? 3 to 4? How would you guys do that? Let's roll the dice. Let's see what happens. I guess I'll worry about that when that comes. Either way, let's see. 1 is none. 1 or 2 is none. 3, 4, 5, or 3, 4 is few. 5, 6 is several. 4, few. Okay. So Izzek creeps around in here. Izzek's going to have to make an awareness check. He's going to get ambushed. Oh, Lordy. I should have rested. Why did I not rest? Another demon. My second demon today. This is looking kind of scary. I'm going to give myself a check mark for awareness. Izzek slowly, stealthily, he thinks, creeps through this open door and enters this cavern and is attacked. He is automatically hit. I hope you guys watched my villain creation chapter that I did here just before this, where I created 2 of our more common villains, Vacant Empire Elf, Vacant Empire Mage. I am going to say there is going to be a D3 elves. I think few is D3s, or several. Did I just roll several? I did. 1, 2, 3. Nope, few. I think few is 1 to 3, right? Yeah, that's how I would count few is 1 to 3. So D6, 1 to 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, or 3, 4, 2, 5, 6, 3. There is only, luckily, 1 elf in this thing. But that elf ambushed him. I'm going to give this elf an automatic hit. Not even fooling on it. So this elf does, it's just going to be a normal elf. This is the watchtower. This elf was indeed doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing, watching. And he saw Izzek the entire way. Heard him clamoring over that stone. Heard him falling, cursing as he hurt himself. Heard him breathing as he's outside the door looking for tracks. There was absolutely no surprise. He waited for Izzek behind the door patiently, quietly, for this ambush. Automatic hit 2D. What does he do? He has a short sword or broadsword 2d6 plus 4 strength. 6 plus a d4. 4. 6 plus 4 is 10. He's going to do 3 points of damage to Izzek as he stabs him with his broadsword. Ugh. Okay. Izzek is shocked and surprised. So quietly, so stealthily he was moving in here. He thought for sure nothing would hear him. And he gets stabbed right in the right side under that chainmail as that broadsword comes. He yelps and draws his sword. Let us roll for initiative. Let us lay down some improvised weapons. I always do improvised weapons. This is good. This is turning out to be kind of a very good first encounter and introduction to the Vacant Empire elves. Good introduction. Sometimes the oracles really do kind of give us a little bit of a hand. They give us what we can handle. They give us what we need. I like it already. I'm just going to lay down 2 improvised weapons, I think. A torch makes sense. Burning firewood. Both make perfect sense. Okay. So, as Izzek gets ambushed, stabbed in shock and surprise. These elves only have 1 attack. Izzek has 2. He draws his sword. I think he's gonna go last. I think he's gonna go last, though. I mean, he's gonna go behind. Now, this elf is gonna go first, I think, twice, because I believe when you are surprised and ambushed, if I remember correctly, you lose your highest initiative card. Let's quickly take a look at these rules to refresh ourselves. I'm going to give this elf all the benefit in the world because Izzek rolled several demons already. I'm raising this threat dice, by the way. I'm raising this threat dice to 5. He's made 2 demons, 2 storks. If he's already at a 5 out of 6, I'm going to hit the threat this round. This game is going to have the threat. Okay, let me remind myself here. Let's take a look at surprise. If you perform a surprise attack, the GM is surprising to your enemy, which is what this elf did. Choose any initiative any initiative card you want in the first round of combat. Okay, they can choose any initiative card they want, huh? Well, I already drew the initiative cards. Let me look at the ambush here real quick too, just to make sure. A sneak attack, I should say. When you sneak up on someone, it wasn't really sneak so much as an ambush. Lying in wait for an enemy, attacking as it passes by. In this case, the victim makes an awareness roll to spot you, which he did not. All those fail. Oh, look at the bottom cards. From 10 on up, randomly drawn. Wow. It actually is a little bit more interesting. But that's okay. I think since I've already rolled the initiative cards, what I'm just going to do is Izzek is not going first. He's going 3rd and 8. This elf is going first. Fair enough. This elf's going to attack. He's already got the advantage. He's going to do it again. He has got a skill level of 13. He actually misses. Okay. He missed that attack. He had a chance. Izzek finally rallies himself, turns around, shocked, surprised. Sure enough, standing before him is an elf. Not the mage. There we go. An elf. This elf is tall. This elf is regal, but gaunt. He doesn't look quite like a normal elf. He doesn't look like the bartender in Derby on the Downs. This elf is taller, more gaunt. This elf is wearing an armor. that's greenish with a very weird bluish tint to it. It almost sparkles like, I guess, like a pearlescent sparkle. That's what we'll call it, pearlescent. If you've ever seen that kind of sparkle, the inside of a clam, this armor has a strange pearlescent sheen to it. This elf's eyes are black as night. He's never seen an elf with black eyes before. I think just for perception chances here, I'm going to have him make another awareness check to get a little bit more weird information from this elf. I think awareness is what I want here. He doesn't really have any other. There's no things like smell, nothing weird like that. Maybe a spot hidden. No, it's not really appropriate for what I want here. I want just like more of a strange perception. Awareness is what it's going to be. 16. He fails anyway. So it doesn't matter. Well, I'm sure that what I have in mind will be revealed at a later date. Drawing a sword is a free action. Attacking is not a free action. He's going to attack this elf. That he knows what this elf is now. 13 to hit, 11. He does. As he pulls out this longsword, by the way, this elf recoils in shock and horror. This elf does mutter one word, "Oh dear," as if totally and utterly in shock. These elves' black eyes, if they can grow wider, they go from little small chunks of coal to giant chunks of obsidian as he recognizes what this sword is. Oh dear. Doesn't know what it means, but he's going to find out what all dear means here pretty quick because he gets hit by 2d8 plus 4 points of damage plus another d6 of damage. 3. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on, let me recover that dice. Maybe one of these days I'll get myself a little rolling dice rolly thing, but whatever. 3, 4, a d4 damage from my strength, a 5, and an additional d6 from the sword. There we go, 10. He does 10 points of damage on this elf, leaving him with 6 hit points. This elf is hit hard by this longsword, and this longsword, this sunblade, practically sings in Izzek's hands. Almost reluctantly, the black veins on this sunblade pulse, like pulsing, like blood coursing through a vein as this curse on this sunblade takes effect. You could almost feel the sunblade screaming in anger, pain, and thirst all at the same time. This elf is at 5 hit points. I said 11 points of damage, right? 5 hit points. I'm going to have to keep note of that. Let me get... Do I got any more scratch paper laying around? Where's all my scratch paper? Well, we'll use this. Okay, 5 hit points. I hope I remembered that right. I lose count the minute I say something. Okay. Well, that was that attack. Izzek, too, is kind of shocked. He feels the emotions in this sword. He hates to say it, but it both delights him and fills him with dread at the same time. Second round. 13 to hit. Izzek hits with a second attack. 2d8. 2. 10. 12. 16 points of damage. This elf drops to the ground, practically cleaved, with a deep wound in his shoulder as it pierces his side through this strange pearlescent blue armor, and this thing collapses to the ground. Izzek breathes a deep breath, phew, but that does not last, and he turns to kind of face the inside of this place. He's looking at this elf, maybe. What is this thing? It doesn't look right for an elf. And then suddenly this elf's eyes snap open. And jumps to his feet. Izzek is pretty sure he killed this elf. I mean, how could that elf survive this wound? I mean, surely it was lethal. It doesn't matter. He's forced into combat again. Izzek is momentarily shocked, but he takes another swing with his longsword. He hits. Oh, let's see. This elf does come back to life. Some of you didn't watch my video. I should mention, just in case, these Vacant Empire elves that I created, they have a cursed aura. When it's 0 hit points, the next round it will rise with D6 hit points and additional damage of D6. So that's how many hit points he has now. This elf has 5 hit points and does an additional D6 damage. Anyway, Izzek did hit it. I don't know if that 5 hit points is going to last very long for him. Oh, I got 1d8. That's right. 4, 2. He does have armor, so he needs more than that. That's 6. Additional D6. 6, 10. 10, 15. This is enough to cut this elf down for good. Izzek attacks this elf a second time before this elf fully has time to rally, and this time the elf does collapse to the ground. Izzek stands over this elf, sword at the ready, waiting for this thing to rise up again. For a moment, his elf's eyes flicker and twitch, like he's trying to rise up again, but fortunately it does not happen. It goes still. The eyes grow dark, and oddly enough, when the eyes grow dark, the black pupils, the black eyes fade. Oh, it's a bit of a trope, but it's still a really good trope. The blackness fades, and instead, there are just the green-blue eyes of an elvish lad. Dead. Maybe I should make those spooky eyes a different color. Black seems a little too common, right? I mean, you see that all the time in all these shows. It's a little too Stranger Things. I'll work on it. Maybe the next time I encounter an elf, I'll do a different eyes than black. I can retcon that, right? You guys allow me to retcon that? Okay. All right. So, this tower is still. It's got some torches on the wall, even though it's in the daytime. It is dark, as the top half is open. Sunlight streams a little bit through the foliage. What's odd is in the middle of this tower is an obelisk. That is what I rolled, right? Yes, I seem to remember. Let me just take a quick look. I didn't mark it down, but 10 was an obelisk, right? Weird how I remember certain things. A humming obelisk. Yes. I got that so right. I got the hum. I got the obelisk. So he comes across a humming obelisk in the center of this thing. This thing is covered in elven ruins. I guess we already determined you can't read Elvish. Maybe it's not ancient Elvish anymore. Maybe it's more modern Elvish. I'll roll languages. I'm going to roll it a Bane. I still think this is ancient Elvish, but she's already determined he can't read. There's nothing in the rules that say you can't keep trying to read a language that you can't read over and over again. New situation, new skill check. But logically it makes sense. I'll give it to him with a Bane. I don't see if I hadn't given him the Bane, he would have been able to read that. Anyway, it does appear to be an ancient Elvish, which he can't read or understand. It's humming. He does not know what purpose this obelisk serves. It is glowing with a soft blue light. I'm going to scavenge for treasure. Let's see. Where's that in here? That's like, oh, just let that pay. There we go. Scavenge. Let's scavenge. We'll loot this this elf for treasure and the room if there's anything of note. I think he's going to specifically search this elf. D10. 3. Nothing of note. So he searches this elf. This elf doesn't have anything on him other than the sword he wielded and the armor he wears, a studded leather armor with a strange pearlescent sheen. This elf doesn't even so much as carry a coin pouch on him. But Izzek knows this must be one of the elves. elves that they were speaking of, that the prince talked to him about. Unfortunately, Izzek doesn't feel the tightened curse on his heart lift. Apparently, this was not the last elf in the Vacant Lands. Apparently, more still reside. I think that does wrap up chapter 2. I think Izzek will explore that obelisk a little bit more and this tower a little bit more, just to finish up this waypoint and then move on to waypoint 3. But I think I've probably been recording long enough. He'll wrap up this waypoint on my next chapter. Thanks all. Hope you have a good week.